Welcome back to the Anfield Exchange, and today we're going to be looking at the potential transfers that Liverpool might be doing this summer. Now, there's a lot of rumours flying around. Some of them might have legs, some of them probably not so much. But we do know one thing for sure, and that is that Arne Slot has been promised a big summer. So what that looks like in terms of money to spend, I'm not sure. Maybe it's not as much money as everybody's expecting, but it's based on activity because we've got a lot of players that potentially could be leaving the club. But we'll have to wait and see on that. In terms of who we're looking at bringing in, I'm surprised a little bit. Obviously, there's a lot of talk around Trent at the minute going to Real Madrid. If that happens, will we replace, get a new right back in? And there's not been too many rumours circulating in terms of a right back position, which slightly worries me, but possibly could Trent be staying? We don't know. I'll be doing a video this week on Trent Alexander-Arnold, so we'll get into that in the next video. But in terms of transfers this year in the summer, we're going to be looking at quite a lot of players, and I'm going to give you a breakdown of those here now. So first up, we've got Rodrigo. He's one that seems to have resurfaced in the media. There was links with us in January and in the summer of last year, but nothing materialised. He's obviously at Real Madrid. The first thing I want to say about Rodrigo is, yes, I would love to have Rodrigo at Liverpool. Predominantly, he plays on the right wing for Real Madrid. I think it would potentially be... He would be starting. I think he would be one of those that will start on the left initially, while we basically wait for Salah to retire. And I think he potentially could be the long-term replacement for Mo Salah. I think he's a player that Liverpool look like they may have identified as Salah's replacement. But the one thing I will say, I'm not sure Real Madrid would want to let Rodrigo go. They've got what I would call superstars in the likes of Bellingham, Mbappe, Vinicius. I think Vinicius is a good player, but he's very overrated. I actually think Rodrigo has more potential and has a much better demeanour than what Vinicius has. I think Vinicius is a sore loser, and I think Rodrigo probably doesn't fit in that Real Madrid team at a minute. Now, we see rumours that he does want to leave Real Madrid. Again, the question would be, why does he want to leave Real Madrid? I'm not too sure. Similarly, I can understand why Trent would want to go to Madrid. They are, dare I say it, they are the biggest club in the world. And not many players leave Real Madrid and go on to have successful careers, I will say that. But I think Rodrigo has all the potential. He is still young. I'm just not sure that Real would want to let him go. Now, one possibility would be, we know that Real Madrid want Trent Alexander-Arnold before the Club World Cup, so they would have to pay for Trent if he wanted to have him for that tournament. I don't believe they will. I think they'll wait till after the tournament, just because it doesn't make sense to pay X amount of money or throw Rodrigo into any sort of deal that could be had when you could just wait an extra 2 weeks and have him on a free transfer. That doesn't make sense to me. But is that something we could potentially look at if we are interested in Rodrigo? Can we use him as bait to try and get can we use Trent as bait to try and get Rodrigo into a club? I think he's valued probably too highly. So what I potentially think could happen is whatever money Real Madrid are willing to pay for Trent Alexander-Arnold before the Club World Cup, we could knock that off the fee that we give to Real Madrid after the Club World Cup, and have that sort of agreement that, yes, you can have Trent for, say, 10 million for the Club World Cup, but we want to knock that 10 million off of the price we give you for Rodrigo. I think that's one way of doing it. In terms of, do we need him? I think we don't necessarily need him, because we've got Gakpo, we've got Diaz, we've got Salah, we've got currently Núñez, Jota, and we've also got Chiesa. Harvey Elliott can play out on that right hand side as well. We don't know what's going to happen with some of those players. We expect some of them to leave. Núñez certainly, potentially Jota. I've seen rumours of that recently, and Harvey Elliott as well. There's rumours that he may be leaving. So I do think you've got to try and strengthen with quality when it becomes available, and we are very much a team that we sign players. I hate the word, but opportunistic players, and I think this is an opportunity for Liverpool to make a big wave in the transfer market if they were to bring Rodrigo in. Secondly, moving on to I think this guy he's been linked for a while, but the rumours just don't seem to go away, and it's Hugo Ekitike. Obviously plays for Frankfurt at the minute. He's having a fantastic season for Frankfurt. He's scoring goals for fun over in Germany. There's plenty of room to develop. He's a young striker with bags of potential. I can't honestly say I've seen too much of Ekitike. Obviously the numbers add up, but I get mixed signals looking through social media. A lot of people want Ekitike. A lot of people saying Ekitike is not good enough. I think the thing with Ekitike, I would love to bring in Alexander Isak. I don't believe we're going to do that. I think Newcastle will get Champions League football, and I also think that we would be priced out. We won't pay what it would take to get Alexander Isak from Liverpool. I think what FSG and what Michael Edwards and Richard Hughes are probably looking at with Ekitike is, can we develop him into the new Alexander Isak? It's a big ask. And then you've got to take into account adapting to the Premier League, coming over to the Premier League, and even if he was to join, I don't think he would hit the ground running. But yeah, I think that's more of a realistic signing in the striker position over Alexander Isak, which it saddens me to say, because I do believe you need to go out there and bring the best players in, especially when you're on top, which Liverpool are. But I think, yeah, Ekitike, I'm sort of hit and miss on this one. I remember when Mo Salah signed for the club under Michael Edwards brought him in, and I was very much against that signing, if I'm honest, and obviously it's turned out well. So whoever Liverpool bring in the summer, I've accepted that I just have to trust Michael Edwards and the processes they use and the data that they use to identify these players. If the data says that Ekitike is the right man, then I'll get behind it and I'll accept it, because ultimately, yeah, Michael Edwards seems to know what he's doing. He doesn't get many of these transfers wrong. Richard Hughes has a good history at Bournemouth in terms of bringing transfers on, bringing signings in and selling them on for profit, which leads us on to our next signing, Milos Kerkez. Now, if you'd have asked me 3-4 weeks ago, I would have said this transfer was done and dusted. It will be guaranteed. I'm seeing a lot more recently. Real Madrid are looking at him. There's a few other clubs that are looking at him. I think for me, Milos Kerkez is a ready-made replacement for Andy Robertson. I think it would be good to get him into the club alongside Robbo, let him learn from Robbo and all the experience that Robbo has. I do think it means Kostas would be sold, which I'm fine with that, if you can bring in Milos Kerkez. I think, yeah, like I said, Real Madrid are interested in it, so when Real Madrid are interested in a player, as we're finding out with Trent, they normally get that player. So I'm not sure how concrete that interest is from Real Madrid. Hopefully, not so much. But looking at the team, we probably do need a left back, because I don't think Ferland Mendy is to the level of Real Madrid. I think Kerkez would be brilliant for him, like he would be for us. The beauty of Kerkez is we know what we have to do to get him. He's got a minimum fee release clause. I'm not sure if it's 40 or 50 million. Sorry, Fab's just tweeting. Yeah, I'm not sure if it's 40 or 50 million. I believe Liverpool think 50 million is too high. Personally, I don't think it is. I think 50 million for a player of that quality is fantastic business. I would be paying a minimum release clause. Who knows if Michael Edwards can negotiate something, Richard Hughes as well, if they can negotiate that price down. But yeah, he is one of the products of Richard Hughes. He brought him into Bournemouth, and now we're selling him on for profit. So, look, I know we've not seen much of Richard Hughes recently, but I think, and again, he's got the pedigree and he's got the experience to show that, and he's got the CV to show that he's very good at what he does. But yeah, for me, Milos Kerkez, I would love to bring him to Liverpool. I think he is the successor to Andy Robertson. I don't think there's anyone else really out there that sort of tickles my fancy as much as Kirkes does. So yeah, hopefully we'll wait and see how that pans out. Hopefully we can get a deal done early in the window for that one. Leading on to my next one, and we're going to stick with Bournemouth. And again, it's in the media every day. It's Dean Huijsen. Again, like Kirkes, Madrid are interested in him. I just think, as a Liverpool fan, I think if you could pick both of those players up for 100 million, I think that's a no-brainer for me. I think 100 million, when you think 100 million gets you a Declan Rice, and compare that with Kirkes and Huijsen, I mean, you've got 10 years ahead of both of them players. I think it solves a long-term, not problem, but it solves a long-term problem for when Van Dijk slows down or decides to move on or retires. Again, Huijsen has got a minimum fee release clause, believed to be 50 million. Again, I actually think 50 million for Huijsen is probably a bit more steep than the 50 million for Kirkes. But equally, I think they're both great players, and for 100 million to Bournemouth for both of those players, I'd be all over that. I really would. I do think he is going to be Van Dijk's replacement if we bring him in. I think long term he's going to be an absolute stalwart for Liverpool. Play him alongside Konate and let him learn from Konate what Konate has learned from Van Dijk. And also play under Van Dijk while he's still there and learn from him as well. He's very young. He's got, again, bags of potential. He's very good at bringing the ball out and finding a pass. He's exactly what Liverpool are looking for, if I'm honest. I would expect Liverpool to be looking at a centre-back this summer, and I think for 50 million quid, I don't think you're going to get much better than Dean Huijsen, to be fair. I like Bastoni at Inter Milan, but he's going to cost, I would expect him to cost a lot more than 50 million. So, yeah, for me, Dean Huijsen, Kirkes, it makes sense to get those players in and let them develop into future Liverpool stars. But we'll have to wait and see what goes down. I think Richard Hughes will have contacts in Bournemouth. So, yeah, I think we're in a good place with them too. I actually think those two will get over the line. Maybe not as quick as I want, but I do think they will get there. Moving on to the midfield, we know Arne Slot was after a midfielder at the beginning of the season. We were looking at Zubimendi. I actually think that our priorities have changed now. I think we do need a midfielder, but I don't believe we need. I don't believe we need a player. I think Zubimendi is very much a player like McAllister. I don't believe we'll be looking for that. I think if there's one thing we have missed this year, and I would say it's creativity from the midfield. So I believe we'll probably be looking at a creative midfielder. And this leads me on to Xavi Simons. Now I'm a massive fan of Xavi Simons. I watched him when he were at PSV. I watched him for Leipzig this year. I think he's brilliant. Even he played against England, I think, for the Netherlands, and he was phenomenal. I think he's available this summer, which is, again, good. If Leipzig are looking to sell and he's looking to leave, there's a deal to be made there. Now, the rumoured price tag is 60 million. I understand why it's 60 million, because this guy has got bags of potential, but in terms of what we'd be paying 60 million for now, I do think that's a little bit steep. I think if we could look at potentially somewhere 40-45 million, if we could get him in that region, I think that would be a brilliant signing for Liverpool. He would fill the creative void that we have. I like Szoboszlai. I just think he's a workhorse, but he doesn't create too much, and I think that's what Liverpool have been missing, especially with Salah slowing down and potentially bringing a new striker in. It's no good bringing a new striker in if you're not going to have players that can get him the ball, and I think Xavi Simons would be one of them. So I would be all up for this signing. He is another Dutch player in the team. You get on with Gravenberch, you get on with Van Dijk, you get on with Gakpo. Obviously, Arne Slot's Dutch. I think what you do need to be cautious of, though, I remember Wolves did it when they first came into a Prem. I think we ended up with a team full of Portuguese players. I don't want to end up with a team full of Dutch players because ultimately we would then just be Holland and we're not the best international team. But I think, yeah, for me, Xavi Simons is fantastic. It makes complete sense to bring him in if you can strike the right deal, and also depending what your priorities are in terms of positions. I think left back will be a priority. I think striker will be a priority, and I think centre back will be a priority. I think they'll all be priorities before we bring in a midfielder. So if there's money left over and we can make this deal happen, I would be all up for it. If we can't make it happen, then I wouldn't be too upset. I think we could probably bring in maybe someone a little bit younger who has potential, as opposed to, I don't want to say the finished article because Xavi Simons isn't the finished article, but if we could bring someone in that's younger who, one, doesn't cost as much money, and two, has a high ceiling to develop into, I think that could be an option for Liverpool. But yeah, it all depends what happens on the other three positions for me. But we briefly touched there on striker being a priority. I believe as a player for Liverpool who fits the club perfectly. In the same way, look, I actually don't like Jude Bellingham now, but when we were linked with Jude Bellingham, I looked at that transfer and thought, this is a transfer that makes complete sense. He fits what Liverpool are. Liverpool fit his ambitions, and it was one of those that I was gutted when he went to Real Madrid. Not too bothered now, because I think he's turned into a little bit of a. He's got too much of an ego for me. But I think this signing, this striker, is of the same mould in terms of he fits Liverpool perfectly. What I will say, he fits Liverpool perfectly for a Jurgen Klopp team. It all depends what Arne Slot wants from a striker, and that guy is Julian Alvarez. He's absolutely tearing the league apart at Atletico Madrid. The problem is, Atletico paid 90 million to Man City for him last year. So we're looking at Isak money if we were to bring him in. Now, I have heard rumours there could be potentially something done there with Núñez going the other way. I actually think Núñez would. I think a big part of Núñez failing at Liverpool has been the pressure that he's been put under from the media. I actually think if he went over to Spain or any other European league, I actually think there's a world-class player in there. And he just needs to get his confidence back. So it would be an interesting one. It depends whether Atletico Madrid would want to spend the time on Núñez and try and develop him and get his confidence back, or whether they'd want to go out and get their own guy. But if that's something that could be done, swapping Núñez for Alvarez and throwing him a little bit of money as well, I'd be all up for that. I think Alvarez, the way he plays football, I think he would fit into Liverpool. His attitude's brilliant. He's so composed. He's so influential, and he can put the ball in the back of the net. And I think all of those things are probably something that Liverpool have been missing this season. But yeah, for me, that would be my first signing. I think a striker is high on the priority list for me. Do what you need to do to get Alvarez in, and then see what you've got left, and try and upgrade the other positions, because I would absolutely love to see Julian Alvarez in a Liverpool shirt. I think he's brilliant. I think he's really come out of his own this year. He's a different player to what he was at Man City. I think mainly because he's getting the opportunities and he's one of the first names on the team sheet, whereas with Man City he was more competing with Haaland, and it's tough to knock Haaland out of the first team. But yeah, that would for me be the perfect signing this summer, Julian Alvarez. But it will cost us a little bit of money. I do want to mention a couple of other guys. I'm not going to go too deep into these, but these are also rumours that I have seen. And Ait Nouri of Wolves has popped up recently. I'm not against Ait Nouri. I think he's a brilliant player. I think he's more of a luxury player. And when I say he's a luxury player, he's to me he's very similar to Trent Alexander-Arnold. So Trent Alexander-Arnold is very good drifting into midfield, getting forward. I think Aït-Nouri is of a similar mould. Obviously not as good as Trent, and he doesn't have the passing range of Trent. But I think he's a fantastic left back. The way Liverpool play, Robertson is more conventional fullback. He gets up and down. He doesn't tend to cut inside the way Trent does, whereas Trent is the luxury at the minute for Liverpool. I think if we go for Aït-Nouri, I think that signals the end of Trent. I think he will be going to Real Madrid if we bring Aït-Nouri in. We will know by the time we get this, if we were to go for Aït-Nouri, we'll know by the time we get this deal done. But I think what that then does is allows you to, it opens the market up for the right back position, and it allows you to bring in a more conventional right back because you've got the luxury on the left this time, and it's just mirrored what you've been doing for the last sort of 6, 7, 8 seasons. The next one I want to talk about, and again, this is going to be briefly, it's Alexander Isak. Another one like Alvarez. I think he's perfect for Liverpool. I just don't think it's a deal that we could get done. The rumours constantly flying around. I actually think Isak stays at Newcastle. I think Newcastle get Champions League football. I think Isak probably gets a new contract, gets a pay increase, and I actually think Isak stays at Newcastle. I don't think there's any way they sell him to a rival when we get in the Champions League. And lastly, it is a right back. It's Jeremy Frimpong. Now I'm not actually sold on this idea. I actually think Jeremy Frimpong is very overrated. He's a good player, but he's not as good as what everybody makes him out to be. He's currently playing for Leverkusen. My issue with Frimpong is he's very similar to me to Kyle Walker. Kyle Walker, I know a lot of people like to say he's one of the best right backs the Premier League's ever seen. I just think that's because we've not been too blessed in the right back position in the Premier League, if I'm honest. When your main competition is Gary Neville, and don't get me wrong, Gary Neville was a very good player. He wasn't a superstar though. I think the thing with Kyle Walker and similar to Frimpong is they rely on the pace too much, and I'm not sure that's something we want to be looking at. My preference would be to have a defender who can defend. Frimpong, he makes mistakes, he finds himself out of position, and yeah, I would like probably a more secure option at right back. I think Conor Bradley. Look, he's just got injured again. I think this is his third or fourth injury of the season. So I'm all up for Conor Bradley being Liverpool's first team right back. My only issue is I don't think he's going to be able to play a full season the way Trent's done for us. So I think you do need to bring someone into that position. I did a video last week about a young lad at Feyenoord, Guerrero Reed. Brilliant player. He's 18 years old. I would be looking, if not him, I would be looking along those lines of bringing a young player in to challenge Bradley for that position, but also fill in. So a young player that's still got some experience of playing first team football. I think Guerrero Reed has that. He's sort of brought through this season. He's got a little bit of experience now. So I think a signing like that could be shrewd, and he could push Bradley, and he'll obviously get opportunities as well because Bradley will be injured. And who knows, he might even overtake Bradley in the pecking order. But I think that's the way we should go for a right back, somebody that's not going to cost us too much money, but somebody other than Quansah and Gomez that can challenge Conor Bradley. Yeah, look, I know we're not going to get all those players. I think we're probably going to be looking at 3, possibly 4. I don't think we'll bring in any more than 4 players in the summer. But yeah, I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments. Let me know who you think we should sign. Which ones are your favourite? Yeah, tell me who you want us to sign for Liverpool, who you think we will sign as well, because what we want isn't necessarily what we're going to get. And I will see you on the next video.